Today and the next class will be completing our introduction to Python. This course requires you uh, to know Python in order to code applications on the Raspberry Pi. So, in a couple of classes, we'll be completing our introduction to Python, and from the next week onwards, uh, we'll be start using the Raspberry Pi.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Morning, Neha. Morning, Sudit. Welcome, Devansh.
Sir, sir.
Sir. Yes, before we start, very small announcement. We're going to start the next batch, brand new batch, starting tomorrow. We're having around 6 participants across Switzerland, US, and India. So if any of your friends are interested, I think it's the right time to let them know. We can accommodate maybe 2 or 3 more for tomorrow's class. Thank you. Over to you, Sumant.
Okay. So, good morning, class, and good evening to the participants from India. So, today is the day 8 of our IoT with Python course, and today we'll be uh, dealing with a new concept of Python, that is that is using lists and tuples. I will also be introducing you to dictionaries, uh, and then we'll be moving on to our backlog, which we had in the last week. That is the count based loop. That is the for loop. I had introduced you to the for loop in the last week. Um, we'll have a revision of it, and I think today's class will greatly help you in understanding the for loop concepts much more uh, clear. So let's get started. I'll share my screen. Okay, so today we'll be looking into the concepts of lists, tuples, and dictionaries. Okay, so we'll have to know a bit about the word called as sequence. So a sequence is an object that holds multiple items of data stored one after the another. So what it actually means is you name anything. So say let me say names, and I can create a sequence in this way. Um, See, I create a list of names. So I call this type of storing values as a sequence because I store them one after the other. So Python, it has provision to store multiple items of data one after the other. So we suppose consider this example. We have stored two names, Rama and Krishna, one after the other. So according to the definition, we have to store one after the other. Yes, Rama comes first, and then we are storing the name Krishna inside a same variable called as names. So that this is what the definition that is given to a sequence. Now we can perform operations upon these sequences, and we can manipulate the items stored in it. And we have three different sequences in Python. So those three different sequences are lists, tuples, and dictionaries. Here I have shown you a sequence of a special type of sequence called as a list. So first we'll be checking out or exploring the concept of lists a bit more in a more deeper sense, and they will be moving on to the concept of tuples, and at the last we will be looking into dictionaries. And by the end of this class, what would be the expected outcome would be uh, the difference between a list, a tuple, and a dictionary. These concepts are very easy to understand, and you'll have no complications whatsoever because they are straightforward things. Okay, so all you need to understand about these concepts is I am storing multiple items of data one after the other. So that's the keyword that the keywords that you need to remember. Multiple items, one after the other. Multiple items, one after the other. So let's see how we store multiple items one after the other, and uh, how does this conform to the concept of lists in Python? Okay, so okay, so list is an object that contains multiple data items. This is what we had seen in our last class. Uh, we can create uh, different kinds of lists. Names uh, on the above is a list of two strings, Rama and Krishna. I can create a list of numbers in this way: one, two, three. And when I say numbers, it will print me the list of numbers. And I just want to point to this particular line item in the definition. It says contains multiple data items. Now we had seen that these contain a single data item over here, but we can create a list of multiple data items. Say the first item is an integer. The second item could be a floating point number. The third item could be a list, or sorry, a string. So you can create a list with multiple types of items. So I have created a list of 3 items, 3 multiple. So it is satisfying the definition of multiple data items inside an object. Okay, so that is the first definition that I can give to a list. And it allows me to store multiple data items. And this is how I create a list with a square braces. Okay, so the second definition of list, or the second property of a list, is it is mutable in nature, which means we can change the contents of a list, but and also lists are dynamic structures, meaning that the items can be added to them and removed. So say I have created a list like this. I can perform operations on a list and expand the list. I can perform operations upon the list and decrease the size of a list. So I can add a few numbers to this list, and I can as well delete a few items from the list. So that is what we mean by the term mutable. Now, why are we concentrating on this definition of mutability? Is that we have another type of sequence called as tuples, and the main difference in between a list and a tuple is that uh, a tuple is not mutable. That is, you cannot change the contents of a tuple. You cannot add contents to a tuple. You cannot delete contents from a tuple. So it is non-mutable, but whereas a list is mutable. Let's explore the concept of tuples a bit later after we complete the concept of list. Okay, so let's try to explore uh, different operations that we can perform on a list, and then we will see how a list uh, can be used. Okay, so the first operation that we can perform upon a list is the repetition operator. Okay, so we had seen that the symbol star, it symbolizes, or it is used to multiply 2 items in Python. So we had seen that, suppose say I have a string called as welcome, and I I assign a message called as hello to it. We had seen that when I do welcome star welcome, we had explored this example in our last class. The expected output was hello, hello. Okay, sorry. Uh, sorry, welcome star 2 or welcome star 3. The expected output would be this, the same string getting multiplied by 3 would mean the same string uh, uh, simply getting expanded in that way. So we can perform the multiplication operation not only upon um, integers, floating point numbers, strings, but also upon a list. So let's see what we can do with the repetition operator. So the repetition operator makes multiple copies of a list and joins them together. So let's see, let's explore this thing. Suppose say I have a list called as ABC. What will I get by multiplying it by a number 2? So what exactly is happening over here is the same list, it will get expanded, and it will simply multiply when you multiply it by a numerical, uh, it will simply get expanded that many times. So that is the repetition operator over here. It is mainly useful uh, at times when you want to simply double your list or triple your list. So you can perform such operations using the repetition operator. So the name itself simplifies repetition, or uh, it repeats itself. So that's the repetition operator for you. Next comes the concept of iterating over list with the for loop. So we had seen that we could be using the for loop uh, in this way. So okay, so we have the concept of uh, um, uh, an important operator over here called as the in. So what this in does is, suppose say I have uh, numbers is equals to 99, 100, 101, and then 102. Suppose say I have a list of numbers over here. Now there's an operator called as the in operator. So what we can do is, this in operator, it returns something for us. Suppose say I am creating a variable n, and say I assign a number 99 to that variable n. Now I can check whether this number 99 is in this list or not by using the in operator. Now how do I do that is, n in numbers. You see, this is giving me a Boolean expression stating whether the number n is in the list called as numbers or not. So what is n over here? 99. And do I find 99 in this numbers? Yes. So we could be using the concept of the in operator and integrate it with a simple for loop to uh, to check uh, whether a particular number is present in the list or not, or we can use it for our count controlled operations. So this is the concept behind a for loop as well. So let's see what is actually happening inside this for loop. So see, when I say for n in numbers, then what actually is happening over here is, the first term 99 gets assigned to the variable n. Then uh, this particular loop, it continues. Okay, so uh, and then once it is once this statement is executed, we again go back to this for loop, similar to what we had seen inside a while loop. The condition is evaluated, the statements are executed, and then it's checked the condition back again. Similarly, here what it does is, it simply goes on shifting values from one point to the other until it has reached the end. So what actually happens is, the first time when the condition is checked, the number, the value in n is assigned to 99. Then uh, and the number, the n is printed upon the screen, and then it goes back to check the condition over here, and then the number gets shifted to 100. So 100 is stored inside n, then 100 is printed, then again it goes back over here, it would print 101, and then 102. So that is what is actually happening inside the for loop. Now there are multiple ways in which we can create a list, and one such simple creation method for creating a list is creating a list this way. But you can as well create a list by using the list command and list of range of 10. This would create a list of 10 numbers of range 10, which means it will create a list of 0 to 9. Now let's see it did create a list of 0 to 9. So when you want to create any list of larger magnitude, you cannot simply go on typing over here. So what you can do is you can use such kind of list operations. So when you want to create a bigger list, you go with this particular statement: variable name, uh, assignment operator, list of, then the range of numbers that you want to create a list. Now we had learned that a list is mutable, that is, you can change the values inside a list. So once you have created a, a list of 100 numbers, you can then go on to change your numbers instead of manually creating them. That would be a much more easier approach rather than simply create assigning numbers in this way. And at times you will have to expand your list as well. So these kinds of operations will be useful at during those cases. So let's see another concept of lists called as indexing. So an index is nothing but, uh, we could say, um, the number or the chronological order assigned to a set. Now we could see that our textbooks, they have something called as an index, which would tell you what chapter is present at what page number. So when we try to uh, apply the same concept to a list, an index of a list will tell us what number is present at what place. So an index essentially will start from the number 0 and not 1. Now our pages in a textbook, they might start from 1, but inside Python they will start from 0. So the the index 0 of a list, my list, would mean that This particular statement over here, it would mean that the first element of my list of 1 would mean the second element of my list. My list of 2 would mean the third element of my list, and my list of 3 would mean the fourth element of my list. Now let us see this thing by taking the example of A. We have a list of numbers from 0 to 9, and when I say A of 0, it would print 0 for me because that is the first element. Similarly, I have a list called as ABC over here. Now when I do ABC of 2, it would print high for me because 0, 1, 2. At the second position, there's a string called as high inside it. Okay, so that is all we have to see about the concept of indexing. So all you need to remember is make an analogy with the index numbers that you have inside a textbook. It would actually mean what at what page what chapter is present. So inside a list, it would mean at what position, what number, or what variable is present. Okay, so let's move on to the len function. Now I can use the len function to know the size of my list. Okay, now why is this important is what would happen if I try to access ABC of 3. It would print an error stating index error, list is out of range. What would happen when I do A of 15? It prints out the same error. Now why is that happening is my list over here, my list A over here is of the size or of the length 10. I have 10 different numbers inside my list A. Similarly here, I have 3 different terms inside my list ABC. Now when I try to access the terms or the index that is out of range of my list, that is I have only 3 numbers. Now when I want the fourth number, it doesn't make a sense because the fourth number is not present at all. So that is why uh, Python creates such an error. It says index error, list index out of range. So in order to avoid such kinds of errors, what do I need to do know is the length of my list. If I know the length of my list, then I know my boundaries. Then I will not venture out of my boundaries. So for this reason, I will be using the concept of list. The concept of length. So let's see. Uh, let's create a variable called as size and len of ABC. Now, what would be the expected output over here? 3, because the size of ABC is 3, which means there are 3 items inside ABC. Similarly, I can do size or say I can create any variable s is equals to len of a, and then I'll try to print s. So my list A over here contains 10 different numbers, So 10 different numbers means its size is 10. So this is how I evaluate the size of my list by using the keyword len. Len of list will give you the length of the list. Okay, so I hope you got this concept. Let's try to um, execute this particular thing over here in the form of a program. Okay, so I'll try to create a list. A is equals to list of. Now how do I create a list of 10? We had seen that we could create a list of 10 in this way. So list of range of 10 would create a list of uh, 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 9 for me. Now I will create a variable called as index and assign it to 0, and I will create a simple while loop while index is less than len of a. I will say print a of index, and in my next line I will simply increment my index. Now this is uh, one thing that I had given in the previous homework examples. So this is how you can increment a variable. You can do this, or you can, this actually will do this thing for you. Index is equals to index plus 1. So it will simply increment your index by 1. If you do not want to write it in this way, you can do it in this manner as well. So let's see what this program will give us. It will print a list of or the values inside the list, and you could see that our print statement will actually end with a new line. That is why all my numbers are getting printed in new lines. Okay, so let's move on to the concept of mutability. Now, when we say lists are mutable, we had already discussed this thing. We meant that the elements, they can be changed. Mutability means they can be, it is something changeable. So my list is something which I can change. Now let's see how we can change the elements of a list. Mm, okay, so let's say I have a list A over here, and it has different numbers from 0 to 9. Now what if I want to change the fifth number? Say I want to say A of 4 is equals to 56, and when I do print A, it says the fourth element is 56. So earlier it was 4, but now it got changed to 56. Similarly, I have ABC and say I want to change my this term to another string. Say, so what I can do is I can simply assign ABC of. Now what is the position of 2.5? Count with me. This is the 0, this is the 1, this is the second position. If you want, you can verify it in this way as well. ABC of 1 will give you 2.5. So I will change ABC of 1 to hello, and let me try to print ABC again. You see, anything in a list can be changed. So that is the concept of uh, mutation, or the meaning of the term lists are mutable. Now let us move on to the concept of concatenating two lists. Concatenating simply means that you can join things together. Okay, so now how does that actually happen is you can use the addition operator. We had seen, we had as well seen the multiplication operator, and that is the repeater operator. Now this is a concatenating operator, which means the addition. So let us say we have two lists like A and list called ABC. Now when I create a new list, such say new list is equals to A plus ABC, it will create a new list adding these terms or these elements to these elements at the end. So let us see what it has generated a new list. You see, it has simply added one list to the other. So it has simply appended these values at the end of my first list. So it will simply take my first list and add or append values at the end of my first list and create a new list for me. So this is the concept of concatenation of lists. We have a similar concept with our strings as well. Say I have one string 1, and let me see hello, and I can create another list called as, sorry, I can create another string called as word. Now when I do str3 is equals to str1 plus str2, it will create hello plus world inside my single string. So this is the concept of concatenation of a string. This, on the other hand, is the concatenating of a list. They are both similar concepts and go hand in hand. You will have to also perform concatenating of strings in some of your programs. So you need to know this concept on how you can add two strings, or how you can join two strings, and as well as how you can join two lists. Okay, now we had seen that we could add two lists, but we can also slice two lists, or a slice a list, which means we can cut a list. And the syntax of how you do it is the name of the list, and the starting index to the end index. So now let us take an example. Um, let us consider the same example of uh, my string or my new list over here. New list contains a big list of numbers. Now say I want to create a new list or slice this list with a newer list is new list of some 5 to 9. So it will cut the elements of starting from the fifth to until the ninth position. I can do this as well. New list of say 9 to 13. So it will simply cut the elements, that is slice the elements of my list and assign it in this way. Now I can perform multiple operations in uh, using this. Now say I want to um, cut the first 10 elements, then I can do it in this way. So let us see what our newer list is containing. It will contain the first 10 elements of my list. Similarly, I can cut the um, say up to 12. You see, this is how I can perform the uh, slicing operation. So all you need to know is you can slice different lists and you can play with indices. Now we had seen that in the concept of indices, um, we did okay, so let me discuss it over here. Now there's an interesting thing we can do with our lists. Okay, so the interesting thing that we can do with our list is that, suppose say I have a list of 156 and 5. Say I create a new list. Sorry, I have to I have a new list uh, and I have seen that the first element of my list is accessible by a of 0. But what if I give a negative number, say -1? It says a of -1 is 95. So the negative number here signifies that start counting from counting my list from the last term. Okay, so this is my 0th index, first index, second index. But when I start from reverse, I will start from this position. I will say this as a of minus 1, a of minus 2, a of minus 3. Let's see, a of minus 2, it will give us 56. Similarly, a of minus 3, it will give us 1. We can as well try a of minus 4. It says uh, list index out of range, because we do not have a of minus 1. We only have 3 terms over here. So that is one thing that you need to remember. You can do a positive indexing, you can do a negative indexing as well, and you can splice in a similar way. Say a of minus 1 to minus 3. I can do it in this way as well. So it has returned a null list for me. That is because I haven't assigned anything, and um, I will give you some examples. You can try to execute them, and uh, you will understand the concept of slicing in a much more clearer fashion. Now let us move on to our next concept of finding items inside lists with the in operator. Now we had seen that using the in operator, um, we had already seen this example. Say I create a number called as n is equals to 95, and when I say n in a, it will return a boolean operator, which means it will check whether the number whether n is present inside a or not. So we had seen that these kinds of conditions were mainly useful inside our if statements. So when we want to do such kind of finding operations, then we can combine this boolean condition with an if statement, and we can search items inside a list. So this is a simple example. I have taken a few numbers called as prod numbers, and I have stored inside a list called as prod numbers V475 F 987 Q143 R688. Now I am accepting a search item, and I am using the input keyword, and I am asking the user to enter a product number. Then I am simply using an if statement, if else condition over here, and say if search and prod number, that is whatever the user has entered, if it is inside this thing, then say then I will print the statement print search was found in the list. If not, I will simply say print search was not found in the list. So this is a simple uh, search program that you can execute inside a list. I am leaving this as an example for you people to try it out. Now let us see a few more operations upon list. Now we had seen that a list is mutable, which means you could change the values inside a list. It also means that you could expand a list, you can delete a few items from a list. Now let us see how that happens. It all happens using these methods over here. So list.append an item will simply add an item to the list. Index will return the index of the first element, whose value uh, like it will search my list, and it will return the location at which that item is present. And you can insert uh, an item inside a list. So these two are something similar, but append, it will add an item to the end of a list. Insert, with using insert, you can add an item uh, at the particular index location. Suppose, say, at the index location of 5, I want to add a new term. I can use it. I can do it with the method insert. Now I can sort my list as well, according to my ascending order or descending order. I can as well remove items from my list. That is, I can delete items from my list, and I can reverse my list as well. That is, if I want to say, I have a list of numbers 0 to 9. So how would my list look like? It would look like 0, 1, 2, 3. I can simply use the keyword reverse to store numbers in this manner: 9, 8, 7, 6, and so on. So let us practically see uh, how these operations are happening. Say I have um, a list called A. Now I can use the keyword append and add a number 100 to the list. Now when I print A again, it will, you see, it has appended or expanded my list. Now I can perform sort operation as well. It was already inside an ascending order. So let me try to add a lower number, say 25. Now this is my list. Now when I do a sort, it will arrange my numbers. See, I have 1, 56, 95, 100, and when I did a sort, this 25, it has to go to this position, and this 56, it will have to move to the next position, and then 95, 90, 100 will have to move to the respective positions. Now let us see. Yeah, so 25 moved here, and this 56, it simply moved one position. So it has sorted my numbers in an ascending manner. Now I can as well use the remove to remove items from my list. When I say a dot remove of 100, or say 56, it will simply remove 56 for me. I can do this a dot reverse as well. It will simply reverse my things for me. You see, earlier it was 125, 95, and 100. When I did an a reverse, it will simply reverse my terms for me. So I have planned a few examples in my homework using these things. You will once you simply execute these things, it will be very much easier for you. But I think from whatever we had done over here, uh, it is pretty much easy, because it just uses basic English keywords. And append in basic English would mean to add something. Index would mean to return the list of the index, insert, sort, remove, reverse. All these are basic English words that you can understand, but you need to know these operations uh, in order to change your list. Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
yeah, I just had a doubt. How do you use the insert operation?
Okay. So the insert has two particular things. One is the index, and next is the item. So when I do a dot insert, the first thing that I need to specify is the index, which means at what position I want my item to be inserted. Now I have four positions: 0, 1, 2, 3. Now say I want to insert at first position. I want to insert a value of, say, 26. So 0, 1. So this was my first position. So at that position, I had inserted 26. So this is how you do it.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So let us move on to the next concept called as tuples. A tuple is something similar to my list, but it is an immutable sequence, which means you cannot change the contents of a list of a tuple. We had seen that we could change the contents of a list, but the same is not possible with a tuple, which means it is an unchangeable memory. Now, this is something very useful to us when we want something to be put constant. We do not want anyone else to be changing these values. Then we use the concept of tuples. But if we want my program to change the values inside my memory, then I use the concept of list. But when I do not want others to change the values, I go with tuples. So let us see how we create tuple. Let me create a tuple with the name B. For creating a list, I used a square brace, but for this, I will use a different brace. I will use the um, okay. So I will use this kind of brace to create my tuple. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is how I create a tuple, but we cannot change or change the contents of a tuple. Okay. So let us move on to the concept of dictionaries. So a dictionary is an object that stores a collection of data. Each element in a dictionary has two parts, that is a key and a value. Now we had seen that inside a list, it had only values in the list, and you could address the values of a list by the index. Now that index, it was just some number, say 0, 1, 2, or the position at which that number was present. But at times it demand the situations might demand us to uh, have an index that is readable by the human mind, or it should be understood by the human who is programming it. So for this, we use the concept of dictionaries. A dictionary is also created in a similar way, but you use a curly brace to create a dictionary. A square brace is used for a list. Uh, a, a half brace is used for a tuple, and a curly brace is used for a dictionary. So so you need to know the main difference: a square brace, a half brace, and a curly brace. Okay. Then inside these lists and tuples, we had seen that we could address this thing by the index value, but here I can say I can address it in this way. Say num1 1 comma num2 5. So I know that this is the if I had taken a list, this would be called as index 0 and this would be called as index 1, but I do not know what is the name of it, or I cannot simply by reading it I make it makes no sense to me. But using dictionaries, uh, I am creating a variable in such a way that uh, the address is easily readable for me. Now, you could consider the example of a phone book uh, for for you to understand the concept of dictionaries in a much clear way. Now, what happens inside our phone book? Suppose say we open our mobile application and we store a number. Say we have a person called as Chris, and this is his phone number. We have a person called Katie, and this is her phone number. We have a person called Joanne, and this is the phone number of Joanne. Okay. So this gives us scope of identifying elements by key and values. So the term or the first word is called as the key, and the second word or the second term will be called as the value. So Chris is the key. This number 555 is the value of it. Katie is the key. 555 is the value of it. Okay, so the main advantage the concept of dictionary gives us is we can store collection of data using key value pairs. So when we know the key or when we know the key, the searching will be much efficient for us, because as humans we can only remember names of persons or names of items, but not the indexes. The concept of indices will be much harder for a person to remember or utilize it in his search items. So that is why the concept of dictionaries is very much used in Python. Now, how you retrieve values from a dictionary is in this way. So you name the dictionary name and then you do the key value. Say I have a dictionary called as C, and when I do this dictionary C of num1 it will give me 1. Now when I do dictionary of num2, it will do the number 5. When I try to search any value, any key that is not present inside my dictionary, it will throw a key error. Now what am I giving over here? I'm giving a key, but I do not have that key, so it gives me a key error. Earlier we had seen one kind of error. It was the index error, because we were trying to search for an index which was not present. So that is why it threw an index error. But now since we are trying to search key which is not present, it will throw me a key error. Now retrieving a value from a dictionary, we had seen this thing in our example just now. Similar to your list, your dictionary is also mutable. That is, you can change the elements of a list. You can add elements to a dictionary. You can delete the elements from a dictionary. So this is how you can do it. Suppose say um, I want to change my num. Say I want to. I have a dictionary called num1 is equals to 1, num2 is equals to 5. Now when I want to change my num1, I can simply use the assignment operator 95. Now when I print C again, it will print the value 95 for me. And the number num1 variable is changed to 95. So this is how we edit the elements of a dictionary. Now I have a few homework programs for you. Um, I would like you people to uh, evaluate or perform this homework and get back to me. I am receiving active responses from all of you, and I am giving feedback about the homework to you. And from the next time, I expect all of you to send me the programs and not the output, because I have received a few responses wherein I have just received the output, but not your exact program. Now, when you give me your program, I will be able to evaluate you in a better way, because I will be knowing whether you are executing the program in a right way, and whether you are writing the program according to the given question or not. And if you make any errors, I will be rectifying you. You will be learning in a much better way. So that's one request I've got for you. So this is the homework for you, and let's discuss your homework. So first, your first one is pretty straightforward. You need to write a statement that creates a list of strings: Einstein, Newton, Copernicus, and Kepler. Your second one is also pretty straightforward. Assume names references a list, which means you create a list of names and then you write a for loop that displays each element of the list. Suppose say I have a list called as names, and it has the names Rama and Krishna. Now I would like you to use the for loop to print the names inside my variable called as names. So you will be printing Rama and Krishna if the names are Rama and Krishna inside the list. Next, assume list of numbers. Assume list numbers 1 has 100 elements and number 2 is an empty list. Now you can create an empty list in this way. Say A is equals to just the square braces, then it will create an empty list for you. So this is how you create an empty list. And I have also shown you how you would create a list of 10 numbers. You can expand to create a list of 100 numbers as well. Say b is equals to list of range of 100. So this would create a list of 100 numbers for you. Yeah, so this is how you create a list of 100 numbers and a list of an empty list. And then I need you to write the code that copies the values, these 100 elements, into this empty list. Okay, this is very straightforward question. You can just simply use the assignment operator for it. Next, I want you to draw a flow chart showing the general logic for totaling the values in a list. So I want you to write a flow chart so that you will understand the for loop in a much better way. And then write a function that accepts a list as an argument, um, and then returns the list of values from the list, which means using the keyword input, I want you to input a list. We had seen that we could input a list using the input keyword. So I want you to use that one and create a list, and then returns the total of the values. That is, you add all the elements of a list and print it on the screen. And the sixth one is assume a variable called as names, and this is a list of strings. And whenever you detect a name called as Ruby, you print hello Ruby, and if you do not find Ruby, then you print no Ruby. And you can just simply try this simple state code on appending a list. All these 7 programs are pretty simple, and we have a day gap in between, so you can try this on them out and get back to me on my Saturday's session. So that's it from my side for today.
Great. Thank you, Suman.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.